Ah, psych your mind. I fixed it. The Zootopia fan film is definitely a cartoon that curses, though. It's
Oh,
like,
is it?
yeah, it is.
Yeah, we gotta talk about it.
Fam, it's like, all right, so how the fuck did I even find it? I think I started off just kind of watching a bunch of like pilots. Like I was watching a bunch of but not like pilots that like would air on television like for actual shows, just kind of proof of concepts pilots and stuff that people online would produce, animated pilots.
Right.
I started off watching a bunch of those, and then in my recommended it just said Return to Zootopia, and it was damn near 2 hours long, and I said, what the hell is this? So I'm like, are they just gonna be reading something? Like, what is this? And when I clicked on it, nah, that was a movie. Like it was
Yeah.
that was an actual
I remember
movie.
it being a thing. I remember watching some of
Yeah.
it and being like, "Holy crap! I can't believe someone did this." I didn't finish it, but
I didn't even know what happened. Like this just happened under my nose, and I didn't even know it existed. But I found it and I watched it, and I just got first you would think the novelty that it exists will wear off. It doesn't, because I just kept being like, "Fam, this is real." Like the entire time I'm watching it, I'm like, "This is
that.
actually real. Like this actually exists," and it's like not like a weird fan servicey thing. It's kind of just like, nah, this guy clearly had a story he wanted. It's like about interracial relationships. It's really like it's like what? Wow, like look what they're doing here with this.
So it's like kind of a shipping movie. Is it like about those relationships? Because he's like, I want to ship these characters and get them together in my sequel.
Well, yeah. So the rabbit, Judy and Nick,
Yeah.
Judy and Nick do get together in the film, and it's
Oh
not really
yeah, it's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah, it's not really like a spoiler, because it is kind of it's hinted at literally in like the first 5 minutes of the movie, and then they end up getting together throughout the film, and like a huge chunk of the film is just everybody on the police force, everybody outside, her parents, and just like, what the fuck? This isn't natural. Like, she calls her mom. Is like, hey, I'm seeing somebody. Okay, what's the rabbit's name? You know that fox I was with? His mom said, excuse me? No,
so
that
interesting.
doesn't work. Yeah, man, I couldn't. That thing's good. Zootopia fan.
You think it's good?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Are you a big fan of are you a big fan of the original movie?
I was when it came out.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool. You know, some things I'm not too big on like the ending now in 2021.
Yeah.
But like I do feel like the heart of the first film was in the right place.
I agree.
I feel like they did open up trying to have like a lot of really important conversations.
Yeah, it feels like obviously when you're doing a movie like that and you're doing all of this like sort of real world commentary, but you're doing it through these metaphors with this like with animals. The metaphors can sometimes get a little messy.
Right,
and
yeah.
like nothing's gonna line up one to one, even if your heart's in the right place. And then like some things you can maybe infer from the metaphors aren't what they intended, but
right,
and can come off different ways and like the wrong way. But I do think you're right. I think the heart of that movie was definitely in the right place, even if not everything came together perfectly. And also, that's like a really cool world, really good world building for Zootopia.
Absolutely, you could tell a lot of work went into like, okay, so how do these animals get around that are obviously smaller? How do these animals get around that are bigger? And like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
There was a lot of creativity put into that front.
The one shot that I so specifically remember is when the train first goes. I feel like it goes through a tunnel and you see all of the city, and I'm this is cool. That's a cool looking city. Yeah. Rad. Well, if you're listening at home, Return to Zootopia exists on YouTube.
Return to Zootopia, baby. Listen, I'm like a third through the director's commentary. Like, I'm invested. Like, I was just
you watched it, and now you're watching the commentary. Amazing.
Yeah, because I just want to know how and why. I'm so fascinated, and the fact
how many
bro
people
was
worked
just
on
even
it?
able to. It was just him. Like, it
just
was him. Yeah, it was just him, and he just had a bunch of people do the voices, but it was him.
Pretty cool.
And that's so fascinating to me. Like, I think that's really rad. So yeah, even though it has like 4 million views, that kind of creeps up on me too. Like, you ever see something with like an astronomical amount of views, and you're like, I'm not one of these. Like, there are 4 million people that saw this that weren't me.
I feel like there are so many channels I discover that I'm like, oh, this channel has 4 million subscribers, and I've never heard of it before, and that kind of baffles me. I'm like, how? I'm on YouTube every day. I do so much YouTube stuff, and there's so many weird little pockets of areas on YouTube that I'm just not privy to. And that's kind of what's cool about it, is like, there's a million YouTubes. There's just a million different subcultures in YouTube. And for better or worse. And
you can get lost, man.
Yeah. Some people lose their way in YouTube. And our heart go out to them, and we hope they find their way back.
Love. One love.
All right, let's cue the theme song.
One theme song.
I've been watching them for years. It's always been something that fit with all the animated characters that's doing their own bits. With a fry who's in the future and a family guy that sucks. With a father from a hill, a burger family runs amok. The show inspires is the same guy, except he totally say and diverse.
Let's watch cartoons that curse.
Yeah, that's bananas.
As rough.
What the f*** is up, everybody? Welcome to Cartoons That Curse. My name is Johnny. You might know me as Johnny Two Cellos. I'm here with my co-host, Tariq. Tariq, how are you?
I am doing well. Way better than last week. How are you doing?
Everyone, comment below if you felt Tariq was off last week, and let us know why. And
please, I really want to know if you guys know why. That would validate a lot of things.
I thought you were great. I think you did a great job, Tariq.
I know you did, because you couldn't stop laughing.
Oh, well, welcome to Cartoons That Curse. You know the drill. We talk about cartoons that say swear words here. And we were talking about Archer. We did season 1, but we're taking a little break. Last week we talked about South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Yep. And this week we're going to talk about the Simpsons movie, which I'm very eager to do. Obviously, we've done like 10 episodes of this show, and almost every episode we at some point go on a Simpsons tangent. It's impossible to... It's just impossible to talk about adult animation without talking about the Simpsons. It's the cartoon
that curses.
Exactly. It's like it is the seed from which everything we talk about grew. It is like it's honestly like it's that influential and that important. And so that's why you're going to hear us talk about it in almost every episode. And today is the first time where we're going to talk about an actual piece of media that is Simpsons, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be
pretty
good.
Rad. This movie is really important to me.
Tariq fucking loves the Simpsons movie, but Tariq and I both saw this movie day one in the theaters.
Right. Which we just.
I feel like I maybe, Mikey. Did you? I know you're not. I know you're just listening, Mikey. But I feel like you went to see this movie with me. Maybe I'm mistaken. But it would have been in high school. 2008 came out, right?
7.
And 2007, right?
July 27th, 2000. Jesus
wild.
Christ. That's how you know I love this movie, because I remember the day.
Summer 2007. And it was a big hit. I mean, obviously that was 17 years after The Simpsons started. Mm-hmm. So this movie had a lot of stops and starts. Like, they were talking about different Simpsons movies for years before they finally got things rolling on this one. There was a minute where they were thinking about doing the Camp Krusty story, but in movie form. Right. That which makes sense. That would have been a great movie plot if you ask me.
Which it feels. What's funny about that to me is that I remember listening to the audio commentary for the Camp Krusty episode, and they brought that up about how like somebody was when they were like hammering out the story and finishing up the script, somebody said like, "Hey, this could be the movie," and they just kind of laughed them off because like they had difficulty extending Camp Krusty to be the length of the episode.
Right.
Like they had to pad the episode out, so they were like, "We can't even get it here. So how are we bother for a film?"
That's so funny. It does feel like a summer camp movie, right? Like a summer camp movie is like a almost a subgenre of movie. So it kind of makes sense to me that could have been a good movie. But that's also season 4 when they did that, which makes sense. It would have been a Bart movie. Like back in the day, the show was Bart focused, and obviously when this came out, it was much more Homer focused. Obviously it's all Simpson focused, but it does feel like early on there was a little more of a Bart focus, and it kind of moved into Homer territory. So this movie being Homer focused makes sense for the time that it was written and when it came out. They also talked for years about doing a parody of Fantasia called Simpstasia.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did hear about that.
I think they basically just said no because it's so difficult. Like obviously Fantasia itself is like a miracle that it exists. That thing's a damn masterpiece. And they're like, well, how are we supposed to make our own Fantasia? That's so hard to do. No dialogue, so that just didn't pan out. Apparently at some point they were talking about maybe doing anthology style movie where it's like kind of like a Treehouse of Horror thing where it's like a bunch of stories in one, but I think they rightfully passed on that idea. But the craziest, I don't know if you knew about this, the craziest movie idea that they threw around was they were considering a live action Troy McClure movie.
Oh yeah.
Starring Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Which would have, I mean, I would have been there for it, I love Phil Hartman, one of my favorite comedic actors of all time and voice actors of all time. They talked about maybe expanding out A Fish Called Selma, which is a great episode, into a feature script. But obviously Hartman's untimely death stopped them from seriously considering that, which is a shame. I mean, that would have been a really weird thing to have happened. That a live action Troy McClure movie,
piece of history it would have been.
But
absolutely.
I think I would have loved it. I feel like I would have loved it.
I know I would have. Because Troy McClure is just one of those, like, well, Phil Hartman in general, when he does either character on The Simpsons, when he does Troy or Lionel Hutz, like, they're both just hilarious no matter what they say.
Yep.
Like, it could be like a mid episode of The Simpsons and those sections of the standouts.
Dude, some of my favorite jokes of all time are just like are Lionel Hutz and Troy McClure based. I think my favorite one is when they go to Lionel Hutz and they're just like, what is it? It's oh my God, I can't remember. Hold on one second. You can cut this out, Mikey. It's okay. So it's when they have his business card. And they're going to.
If you weren't going to say this, I was going to say it.
It's so good. So they're going. They're working. They have his business card, and they're going to try and hire him as their lawyer. And his business card says works on contingency, no money down. And they're just like, this is what your card says. And he goes, oh no, they got this all wrong. And then he goes in and writes in a bunch of stuff, and it says works on contingency, no. Money down. And then I think he says, and this bar association logo shouldn't be here either.
He rips it off and eats it.
So funny. So many great characters. And he also played all those great one-off characters. He was played, what's the guy named? Lyle Landley or whatever, the monorail guy. I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
Monorail Simpsons guy. Great episode. Co-written by Conan O'Brien, who I guess we should. You know what? I'm gonna mention it. Conan O'Brien's final late night episode on TBS was like yesterday after we recorded this.
Right.
And I just want to, because he started on The Simpsons. Well, he started on SNL, but he was a big Simpsons writer for years. and he's a huge inspiration to me in general. So I just want to shout out how much I love Conan O'Brien, and congrats on like almost 40, like 35 years of 30.
Yeah,
How
man.
long has he done this? He's done it almost 30 years, almost
Right.
30 years of late night TV. Huge inspiration on me, molded my sense of humor. And his, if you haven't seen it, watch his final farewell on the Tonight Show in 2010.
Right.
He gave a speech. He gave a speech in there that like changed how I looked at the world, and I'm very grateful for it. And
yeah, I love that speech.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like an all-time TV history moment, in my opinion. But anyways, back to The Simpsons. So, yeah, they like had all these starts and stops. It was a crazy road to try and figure out a Simpsons movie. And, it took them a long time. It's funny how, like, we were talking about South Park last week. Literally, they had one season of success, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, let's make a movie for South Park. And they did it. And they just did it immediately. And it's great. Right. It's such a good movie.
The trailer for the Simpsons movie literally says 18 years in the making.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's such a stark difference.
It's wild how long it took them. And then even how long it took them to produce the movie, because they signed the cast in like 2001 and started working on the script. They brought in all these different people to work on it. It was produced by the original trio. Actually, no, it was just Groening and Brooks from the original trio. And then they brought in Al Jean and Mike Scully to help produce it as well, who both over the course of the production of this movie were showrunning the show as well. So they were showrunning and working on the movie. Okay. I guess when it started, it would have been Mike Scully showrunning, and when the movie eventually came out, Al Jean would have been the showrunner.
I didn't realize. I guess I didn't realize it bled into the Scully years.
Yeah, I mean, it's if they started this in 01, like, and he's a literal producer on it as well as one of the writers. And then the writing staff, they just brought in so many of the writers from those first 10 seasons. You got Merkin, Mike Reese, Scully, Matt Selman came on later, Schwartzwelder, John Vitti. Mm-hmm. It's a huge number of people wrote the screenplay, and they basically just wrote it like they would write the show. They had a writer's room, and they just kind of wrote it by committee. And I think that was the right move, given that that's what they knew. That's how they how they knew how to make The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's one of Matt's only writing credits.
Yeah, right.
He has a couple in the first season. I'm like 95% positive that he wrote Some Enchanted Evening.
Which was the original pilot, right?
Right. And I know he has a writing credit on 22 short films.
Right, that makes sense.
Right.
Everyone does.
Everyone who's
everyone who's
that
in that
episode
room
is sick. When's the last time you watched that episode? Because it just kind of has
pretty recently.
It says written by, and then there's just this fat wall of text on the screen.
Yeah, which is really basically bizarre. This movie also.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this movie eventually, they started in 2001, and it takes like 6 years to produce. Did you know this? Did you know that so obviously David Silverman was a big Simpsons director, but they signed him to direct the movie, and he quit his job at Pixar to do that.
Yeah, I did. I think I heard him talk about that before.
That's commitment. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like some other writers and directors who worked on The Simpsons for years had talked about like their interest in working on it. I know Conan at some point said, "Oh, I would love to work with the Simpsons staff again," but obviously he's got his own thing going. Although, like, at this point, if they're gonna ever make another movie, which allegedly they are, like, I would love it if you got some of these guys in there.
Man, I'm giving the second Simpsons movie. I'm giving that the same energy that I gave Space Jam 2, and I think if I do, it'll happen, because Space Jam 2 is actually happening now. Space Jam 2 has been supposed to happen since before I was even born, fam.
Oh.
And like now I don't graduate college, and now it's finally happening. But at a certain point, I remember vividly saying, like, I think I might have said this 2 years ago, when like news was coming out. They kept tossing around this fake editor like LeBron and Bugs Bunny, and I said, I said, I'm not going to believe Space Jam 2 exists until I see a single frame of animation. And like people kept sending me pictures of LeBron on set. I'm like, I don't see any drawings, so I don't think it exists.
Man, I am I'm really eager to watch Space Jam: A New Legacy. Because I'm a big fan of the first one. I watched it in the theater. I grew up around Chicago as a Chicago Bulls fan. It was an important movie to me growing up. You know, it like when I was a kid, it was like my headcanon for how it all went down. I was like, that's how Michael Jordan came back to the Bulls. Thanks, Bugs. And I liked living in that fantasy world. And you know, now I'm eager to see the second one. I don't necessarily think it looks particularly good, but I am very excited to watch it. I also love LeBron James a lot as a basketball player and as a person. And I think he's a much better actor than Michael Jordan. So it's got a lot of things going for it.
All things I agree with. I do. I'll be honest. I do think it looks rad. And this is somebody that doesn't like the first one. Like,
right.
I can, okay, so I think maybe if I'm with the right people, I can get enjoyment out the first one, right?
Yeah.
But like, when I look at it, I grew up on it too. Granted, I wasn't like, being there is totally different, so I totally get you. But like I wasn't there, but like, you know, like my uncle was a basketball coach and there was cartoons on the screen, so like that was kind of like the middle ground thing, and like, you know, so yeah, I grew up with the film and everything like that. This is how I realized I didn't like it. It was the 20th anniversary, so whenever that was, a couple years ago actually. It wasn't even that damn long ago. It was like 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago probably, and they were playing it in the theater again. They re-released it, so I'm like, okay. I was like dating this girl at the time, and like I was like, yo, we're gonna go see Space Jam, son. And we went, and then I wanted. So this is me trying to fully understand. I'm like, okay, I know animation fans like 2D animation more, or like have an appreciation for 2D animation. I don't want to say that they like it more, but I know animation fans have an appreciation for 2D animation. Let me see if someone who isn't an animation fan has that same appreciation. So I went into there trying to ask her that, and they played like a 3D Looney Tunes short before it, and then Space Jam came on, and it looked like shit, and I was like, fuck. This is the worst way to conduct this experiment. This is the worst way to try to figure out if how people feel about it. Then when I asked her, she was like, "Yeah, I like the short more." I was like, "Fuck." Damn.
That's so funny. I don't know if I'll ever be able to like fully remove my nostalgia from that movie. It was so like, A, as a Michael Jordan fan, and B, as just like a child in the theater. Like, it just is embedded in my brain as like an important part of my childhood.
I understand. I totally understand. It was a cultural phenomenon. Highest grossing basketball movie ever still.
I mean, it definitely doesn't. It like definitely helps that I was obsessed with the Bulls. I literally for first, second, and third grade, I would like bring in the sports section of the paper to reading time in class so I could read about the Bulls instead of reading books.
That's right.
I was fucking obsessed with those Bulls, man. So, you know, I love that movie. I was way into it. I'm very eager to see the second one. But I totally understand what you mean about like, oh, I'll believe it when I see it, you know, in terms of the second Simpsons movie.
Yeah.
I will say, like, they've confirmed a couple times that they're developing a second one, and I think that like now that Disney owns The Simpsons, like I think it is for sure going to happen. I would bet that is definitely a thing that happens.
You think they're gonna do it, or you think they're just gonna keep milking Maggie because they don't gotta pay anybody for that?
I think they'll do both. I don't know, man. Maybe the Simpsons movie will be the Simpsons second movie will be a Disney Plus exclusive, you know, something like that. I mean, I would neither. I would like to see it in the movie theater, desperately. In fact, I'm really upset that Luca, the new Pixar movie, is only on Disney Plus, and I haven't watched it yet. Although Disney owns the El Capitan Theater here in LA, and they're apparently playing it, so I might jump down and try to watch Luca at that theater. But what I really want them to do now that they own Fox's properties is I want them to make a damn Futurama movie. That's what I need. Give me the Futurama movie.
Yeah, that would be rad.
Man, but it does. Yeah.
Did you hear about the Bob's movie?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that's been in the works for a while, and it seems like they're gonna keep going with it. Right. And it's gonna be a musical, which I think is the right move for a Bob's Burgers movie. And then, I mean, there's always been talk of a Family Guy movie. Is that gonna happen? You would be the guy to ask.
No.
You don't think it's ever going to happen?
I don't think so.
Especially now that Disney owns it.
Kinda, yeah. I don't see. Because okay, like you think of the Simpsons movie, right? And you think of like Matt, Jim, Al. Everybody clearly said, "No, we want to make a movie." Like when you hear them talk about it, they talk about how they always wanted to work in widescreen. This was before they knew TV was going to move to high definition. Or whatever. Right. So they were like, we always wanted to work in widescreen, and we always wanted to do this, that, whatever. Like it was clearly like, we want to do this. I don't think anybody at Family Guy wants to make a film. Like, I just
That's
don't.
So interesting.
I don't think Seth cares enough.
Right.
That's not to say that Seth doesn't care about the stuff that he does, but I don't think Seth cares enough about Family Guy to say, let's do a feature. If he did, I feel like he would have fought for it a while ago, probably not right now. I don't think he would.
I would love to see him direct a Family Guy movie. I would love to see that.
I would too. Especially now that we know what he can do as a director.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first Ted's got some really fun stuff in it. I never saw Ted 2. I never saw Million Ways to Die in the West.
Like Ted 2. Ted 2 kind of reboots itself. It's like 2 movies. And the first part is basically a Family Guy episode. Like it's, and not saying like, oh, they do something they would do. No. They do a Family Guy episode. Like it's kind of just the episode where like Brian gets caught drinking out the water fountain, and they're like, "You're not people." They kind of do that to the bear.
I forgot about that episode. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty interesting.
But it's because the bear wants to marry a woman. I think that's why they do that.
Right. So we're getting back into Return to Zootopia territory.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's so interesting. I'm so curious what Seth MacFarlane is going to and wants to do next, because the Orville is such an interesting move to me on his part. Because it's so different than what he has done before it. And it's clearly so inspired. Like he really, really clearly wanted to make something like that. He's just like, let me make my Star Trek fanfic. Like, let me make my Star Trek show. And I like that's unexpected, and I love it. You know, I like, and also I quite like that show. I think it's pretty good. And, you know, that's because I'm a big fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I'm about to say, you explain it to me like it was just really good Star Trek.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it like there's a little bit of tinge towards like more of a comedic take, but it's not like a comedy. It's very much like rooted in its Star Trekkiness. It's like let's build our own Star Trek style show, and it does that well. It's like a pretty good next gen knockoff, and I like it. I've watched all of it that exists so far. But, you know, again, I would love to see him make a Family Guy movie. And I really hope a second Simpsons movie happens. Yeah, I've honestly kind of been saying for years, although I've kind of changed my mind on it. But for years there, I was saying, you know what? They should just end The Simpsons and just make a new movie every 3 years. Like, just do a new movie every so often. And now it's been so long that I'm just like, oh, well, I'm going to be really sad when The Simpsons ends. So, like, just keep it going. You know? keep it going until you can't. End it right, though.
I feel like we've talked about this before. Uh, but I've always said that I wanted them to end The Simpsons at 30. I felt like that was
Yeah.
a great
Too late.
number. It was even it's way too late. They said, fuck you, we're gonna keep going. It's a great note.
They're
It's a
renewed through
great,
like 34 now, right? Something like that.
yeah, man. So like, 30, solid number, even number,
Mm-hmm.
like so far ahead of the game that like you don't gotta worry about nobody taking your crown because ain't nobody else going for that long.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like you could bow out, but the Simpsons kind of because that's the thing, man. I feel like Simpsons Simpsons fans are really mean, and like they have a very 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 distaste for like where the show is currently.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
I
you're
can get
right.
it. I can get it, and I don't exactly feel that way, but I can get it because it isn't exactly what it used to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Even and this is something I want to talk about, but even this
mhm,
movie doesn't feel like I wrote down this movie doesn't feel like my Simpsons. Like I've watched so much Simpsons.
mhm.
This movie I like. This movie doesn't feel anything like my favorite seasons of The Simpsons. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it is interesting, you know. Um
Yeah, this is kind of written because there's elements of 1 to 8 here. Like
right.
I feel like the element that in this film that particularly comes from like seasons 1 to 8 is the heart. I feel like the
Mhm.
heart in this film is stronger than a grand portion of like the stuff like after Scully, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
Yeah.
the heart in this film is really really strong, but it's kind of written like because like I said, I love the movie, so I think it's kind of written like a really really good season 14, 15 episode,
Yeah, that
like
makes sense.
that era where the Simpsons was still because okay, people like to say okay, stop being funny after 8. I don't think that that's true. I think 8 might just be where it was okay, I can turn on any of these and they will all be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's what 1 to 8 is. But to say that The Simpsons just kind of just there's nothing good that comes out of
Yeah,
8,
that's
that's
insane.
come on now, like relax.
Yeah.
So
That's just being stubborn.
right,
there's
you know what I mean?
there's lots of good stuff after 8.
Yeah, and prime example, I tell this story all the time. I was watching a clip that was clearly from like season 16, and I went through the comments, and somebody was like, "Back when the show was good." I'm like, "This
Yeah.
is when y'all hated it.
Yeah, man.
this is knee deep
That's
in the hate."
and this is exactly what we talked about last week on the South Park movie episode is that like the longer things exist, the more types of fans like come to like it and expect certain things out of it. Expect what they like out of it to be what it is forever. And that's just not realistic. And we talked
Right.
about it with South Park, we talked about it with Star Wars, and The Simpsons has been on for 30 plus years. It can't be the same show. You know
Mm-mm.
what I mean? It just can't be the same show. And it's okay. It's totally okay. Like I am very much a person who I'm like seasons 1 through 8, I'm obsessed with. Like it is like seasons 1 through 8 are my arguably my favorite pieces of media on the planet. Like I
Right.
adore it. And I quite like stuff from the Scully years, and there's plenty of stuff afterwards. There's some years in the middle there that I need to watch again, or maybe for the first time. I think there's a lot in the middle that I've kind of missed.
Mm.
But you know, it's I don't know, like have your opinions, but there's plenty of people who still watch the show and still like the show. There's plenty of
Right.
people who love the stuff that you feel is when the show started getting bad. It's like it all shifts. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it all depends on when you were watching it, what your sensibilities are, what's nostalgic to you, what drew you to the show in the first place. Maybe someone started watching The Simpsons in season 16 and there are elements from that era that like they're like this is why I love this show, and so the seasons 1 through 8 don't resonate with them for the same reason. You know, like there's
Yeah.
so many factors.
So this movie Okay, so this movie came like they announced this movie. I remember when I saw the first teaser for this movie. It was I was with my grandma. We went to go see the second Ice Age, and
The Meltdown.
the meltdown,
The
and then
Meltdown.
they played the little teaser trailer, and like I just remember in the teaser trailer they do like the fake out thing. It's like that. It's funny because I just got that South Park Blu-ray. I think I threw it down here. Yeah, here it is. I just got the South Park Big Locker and Cut Blu-ray, and
I got that on my shelf.
I watched the teaser trailer on it, and they do like that fake out thing where they're like it's state of the art 3D animate, like you know what I mean, and they kind of do the same thing with the Simpsons with that teaser trailer. There's like a S. It's like Superman S.
Oh right, I forgot about that.
And I remember audibly saying Superman. And then they pan out, and then it was Homer, and I lost my mind. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, and this was like, you know, I was a kid. Like, I wasn't, like, now you can scrape the internet looking for leaks and everything like that. No, right. I just had to live with that for, like, months. I had to live with that for a while until the actual trailer came out. And then when it came out, and they put it on YouTube, I ran that thing through the mud. Like every trailer they put out, I just was I was obsessed with it. But my experience with The Simpsons is I was big into it like right before I saw that teaser, and I was watching new ones and I was catching up on old ones at the same time. So I didn't have the it's not good anymore in my brain. Right. That everybody else has. I was just like, I'm watching The Simpsons, regardless if it's 12, if it's 16, if it's 2, if it's 4. Like, I was just watching The Simpsons. And I think that's kind of contributes to me being a lot lighter on the show than everybody else is. You know? Like, and I think after a while, for me, the show, when I started to look at the show differently, it kind of helped me, for better or worse words, like helped me excuse a few things. And by what I mean by that is I kind of started seeing The Simpsons as like the animated version of like Saturday Night Live, where like writers come in, they do their thing, they give their take on these characters, and then they leave. New writers come in, they do their thing, give these take on these characters, then they leave. Kind of like a springboard so everybody else can go on and do other things. All these shows came, like we just talked about Conan coming from The Simpsons. You think of like, I don't know, like The Office and stuff like that also deriving from it. And, you know, all of these crew members, these directors that go on to do other things.
Yeah. Greg Daniels came from The Simpsons, created The Office.
Right.
And and King of the Hill, obviously. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I actually really relate to what you said about how you felt like you were just watching The Simpsons. You were catching up on old stuff while you were watching some of the stuff. And I actually had that exact same experience, except probably shifted 4 or so years before you, where I was watching the Scully era. So like Scully era was brand new when I was like really becoming obsessed with The Simpsons. So I was watching through and for the first time seasons 1 through 8, every rerun I could get. You know what I mean? Like I was scheduling my days around watching The Simpsons. They had a likewise. There was like a 5 p.m. and a 6 p.m. Simpsons, and then there was a like a 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. Simpsons or something like that. So like I would stay up until 10 and watch The Simpsons, and then I think there was a Frasier afterwards, and then I would watch The Simpsons again after that. And that was just how I consumed it. And then obviously every Sunday I was watching the new ones. And like at that point it was just like, The Simpsons is on. The Simpsons is still great. And you know, I was a kid, so I didn't really notice a significant difference. I was like, this is still funny and great. And then I slowly stopped watching. I don't think I ever really made the conscious decision to stop watching. I think I just kind of fell off at a certain point. And then eventually kind of got back on the train where I was like, I'm gonna start watching all the new episodes again. Really, when streaming hit and they were all hitting Hulu, I was like, I should watch the stuff that I've missed. And now there's plenty I still need to watch, but very much when the movie came out, I had fallen out of my routine of watching The Simpsons. Like it had been probably a few years since I was like regularly watching New Simpsons. I would occasionally watch it, but it wasn't like part of my routine anymore. But I was still so excited for this movie. So excited for this movie. Obviously, I was there day one, and I really, really liked the movie when I saw it. The moment I saw it, I was like, "This is great." It felt to me. I remember thinking at the time, like, "Oh, this is better than anything they put on TV recently." Like this is like a step up from what they were doing. Even though I probably couldn't have said that confidently because I wasn't watching it as much.
Right.
But in my mind, I was like, this is better than the show right now, the Simpsons movie. But yeah, it's a fucking great movie, and I know you're a big, huge fan. This is an important movie to you. Like, tell me about your experience with the movie. How much do you love it, and why?
Yeah, this movie. So when watching it again, to record this, it kind of reminded me that this movie taught me a lot of stuff that I know about story. Like a lot. Just watching this movie, like over and over. There was a point in time where like I watched this movie every day. I went and saw it the day it came out. And then like not too long after that, like if there was one thing, my grandparents could do, boy, they could find a bootleg. So we found the bootleg, and I ran that thing into the dirt. I've seen this movie so many times. I just would watch it over and over and over again. And like, normal story stuff that, you would either learn about in school or just pick up from watching a lot of movies. This is where I learned it. This is where I learned the callback. This is where I learned Homer, in the beginning of the film, he tells Bart says it's the worst day of my life. And Homer says it's the worst day of your life so far. And then when the film ends, he kisses Marge and she says, best kiss of my life. And he says, best kiss of your life so far. Like when I was a kid, I was like, whoa, what
how did they do that? This is the best Simpsons movie of my life so far.
With a big old question mark after it. But yeah, and just so much of it is like worked into my speech and how I draw. There's a take that Milhouse does in this movie that's in at least, I don't want to exaggerate, it's in at least 3 of my videos where so Milhouse is like talking to Lisa. He's like, Lisa, you can canvas me as much as you want. And then he says he's very passionate about the planet. Then Nelson comes over and says, say global warming's a myth. And when he says that, when Milhouse reacts, his arms jerk up like this. And I do that take, I draw that exact take at least in 3 videos, like where the arms just kind of jerk up like that. Because I think that that's so great. Just the fact that that's like so it's such a subtle movement. Like, and I have a lot of notes just about just how great the animation in this movie is. But that's one that I'll always love because I feel like stuff like that, like subtle things like that, is what makes the animation on The Simpsons so great. So one thing about the DVD for this movie is that there's 2 commentaries. One is normal commentary, Matt, Jim Brooks, Al Jean, like everybody's on there. But there's a second one with just the animation team. It's David Silverman and a bunch of sequence directors. And I can't remember which one it was David said this in, because he's on both. But he brings up the fact that like you always kind of hear that the animation on The Simpsons is crude or something like that, but it's not that. It's just different. It has a very specific charm to it, and they make very specific deliberate choices. I think that this film is gorgeous. And I remember years ago, man, I had to be in high school. I saw like, and it triggered me because I seen it like damn near a decade ago, and I still think about it. There was a post on Tumblr. Somebody compared this movie, the Simpsons movie, with whatever the big budget for this movie was, compare this movie with this budget to like some anime film I think that costed, I want to say, around like 3 million, and they were comparing just like still shots from it to see how beautiful the anime film was and how crappy the Simpsons movie looked. And it really pissed me off because, well, okay, so back then it pissed me off because I thought the movie looked great. And I just believed that, hey, why can't both of these movies just look good in their own way?
Right.
But as an adult, it pisses me off because I don't think people realize like why animation costs a lot of money. Like, because that anime film that they were comparing it to might have just had a smaller team. You know what I mean? It might have had a lower budget because there was less people working on it, less marketing stuff, less corporate stuff that they had to fight, and they probably had less drafts, less people they had to call in. Like, you know what I mean?
Probably less. They probably spending less money on voice actors, considering these are the voice actors of the most successful TV show in the world. You know, like there's so many. There's so
budget
many.
Doesn't mean, oh, this is how many drawings I can do. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I love the way that this movie looks. I think that switching from 4:3 to widescreen is brilliant, especially the way that they do it in the opening.
Yeah, I love that.
Frank comes in with the.
I remember it was the first time we ever saw that. It wasn't until a few seasons later that they switched to widescreen for the show.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild. I remember being so instantly entertained by the Simpsons movie from Ralph doing the 20th century fanfare and going ba 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 ba. That immediately, like I just remember the moment it started, I was laughing, and then the Itchy and Scratchy short was great, but then even just like the meta commentary of Homer in there being like, I can't believe we're watching something we paid to watch something that we can watch at home for free. So funny. I just like it. I feel like this movie gets going and it's kind of got that fun opening that's not in story. You know what I mean? It's like you got the short, you got them in the movie theater. It prepares you for, oh, this is going to be a Simpsons movie. This is going to be different. It's going to be interesting. And man, is it fun. It's just a funny movie. It feels big. It feels so much bigger than any episode they've done of the show.
It definitely does. Even in just like after Homer does that thing in a movie theater, it's one shot. You see Frank come in with the flag, and then it zooms in on the O, and you just go right into Springfield. They do a couple gags, but it's all in one shot until it goes right through the chalkboard, and then you see the Green Day concert. And I get goosebumps every time I see that. Just like all of that, and hearing like Hans Zimmer recreate. First of all, they called Hans Zimmer to do the score for the Simpsons movie.
It's so funny.
Fresh off, not fresh off. Well, I don't remember what year it came out. Dark Knight, whatever, around that era.
The Dark Knight was the following year. The Dark Knight was probably the next movie he did.
Okay. Yeah. They got the Dark Knight guy, the almost Dark Knight guy.
Well, I think he had done Batman Begins already, so he was already the Batman guy.
Okay. Yeah, so they got the Batman guy to do the damn score for the Simpsons movie. And it sounds amazing. It sounds really big. And the fact that they you can hear the bigger choir saying like the Simpsons, like you could hear how gigantic that is. And yeah, it just builds up, and it's really great. And another thing about the way this movie's animated is that like they talk about it on a commentary. Everybody in the church, everybody in the pretty much everybody at the concert, everybody at the town meeting, all recognizable characters, all models that you've seen somewhere before. They aren't just joining random incidentals like they would on the TV show. You go in that church, you can point and recognize every character if you're a super fan. And I think that's a great detail. I think that's a great way to get everybody in because, I've been yelling at you for the past week for the reason that we didn't listen to the South Park commentary.
I know.
before we recorded. But when I was listening to it, Matt and Trey were talking about how if they were to do a movie today, they would 1000% have to leave people out because they have so many characters. And they felt like The Simpsons did an okay job at that because they put everybody in a dome. So everybody had to be involved somehow. But even then, there's characters that like don't speak, relationships that pretty much don't exist in a movie. Like if you didn't know what The Simpsons was, you would not know that Milhouse is supposed to be Bart's best friend if you saw this film.
Right.
Because they don't have time to make them interact. But I feel like they did a good job making it about the family. And I remember hearing somewhere somebody's complaint about the film was that they felt like the Simpsons shouldn't be arguing in the Simpsons movie. They should be a unit, and that's like they should just be like, we're the Simpsons and this is that, whatever. But I don't particularly agree with that. I feel like the foundation crumbling is what makes this movie. I think them realizing like, yeah, Homer's dumb, but we've always kind of accepted the fact that he cares and he's a good guy. And that's the one thing he had. But that's jeopardized here. So now it's like, fam, if you don't even care about anything, then like why do we bother? Why would I have you around the kids? You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the movie work. I think that gives it a great conflict. I think they do a great job with Homer's relationship with Marge, with his relationship with Bart. The only thing that I feel like is they kind of cheaped out on. I'm cool with them giving Lisa a boyfriend. I'm cool with Colin. I like Colin, you know what I mean? But I feel like Lisa's anger takes a backseat because of Marge. And Lisa should be pissed.
I think Lisa takes a little bit of a backseat in this movie. Like
yeah.
I she has the environmental angle, and that is important for like the big inciting incident, obviously.
Right.
But man, so many of my favorite episodes from the first 8 seasons are Lisa episodes. So many of them. And yeah, I don't know. Like again, I agree with you. I don't have a problem with them giving Lisa a boyfriend, but I don't know. Like it feels like after the environmental stuff, that's the focus of her story. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that feels, it's kind of bums me out. Like I feel like Lisa's story should be about Lisa. You know?
Yeah. And you know, when they because like Bart's thing with Flanders is stemmed from his relationship with Homer. So they can continue that after they get out of the dome when they get to Alaska. Lisa has nothing to do when Colin doesn't exist.
Yep.
Like she just has nothing. She just kind of co-signs Marge a few times, but other than that, Lisa has nothing to do if Colin's not around, which I do think is one of the more disappointing aspects of the movie for sure.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. But I do think what you said earlier about like the Simpsons, the crux of the conflict being like a schism within the Simpson family was the right move.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind a movie where it was like the Simpsons versus the world. You know what I mean? Like if they're a unit, but I feel like the foundation of the series is their like familial struggles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's and I think that was the absolute right move in terms of how to tell the story here. And I also think if you look at the years of The Simpsons leading up to the movie, like this story makes so much sense and the conflict makes so much sense because Homer's obviously always been a bit of an idiot. Like he always makes mistakes. That's part of his character. It does feel like maybe a maybe post, season 10 and on, maybe a little earlier, you start to see Homer do some like even more selfish things that
Right. That's where jerk ass
that
Homer comes from.
yeah, jerk ass Homer. And while that's maybe not my favorite version of Homer, like the crux of this movie being crux or being jerk ass Homer, being
Right.
Homer doing horribly selfish things because he feels like it and causing a bunch of problems, and then not even, you know, being there for his family when they were there for him through his stupidity. It feels like exactly like a kind of it feels like the culmination of what they had been doing with Homer for the last however many years before this. And so I love that the story is about Homer recognizing his,
Mm-hmm.
his how problematic he is in that way and overcoming it, and him having to learn to be a less selfish person and a better person.
Right. And through that, honestly, I don't know. I go back and forth with this in my mind, but man, am I almost positive that this movie gives me what is probably my favorite moment in the history of the franchise, which is uh, Marge saying goodbye to Homer on the tape. I
Dude,
love that scene. I love that
highlight of the
read.
movie for me.
It's so good, and like like just down to Marge taping over the wedding video, like everything about it. Even though like granted, you knew the Simpsons was still on, you know the show continues after this film. They do a really good job making it feel so final.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I really like about it. And Julie Kavner gives her best performance like in any Simpsons media in that read. It's so heartbreaking. Like it's in
Yes.
the way that it's written and the way that she reads it. So I remember when listening to the commentary, they talked about this, and they said that like they had Julie like read it like no joke like around 200 times, and every time she read it like they just like it was like Jim Brooks and them, and they just kept going like it's not that's not when it's kind of one of those things where, like when you hear it you'll know, you know what I mean, and they didn't
Right.
exactly hear it from me yet, and they just kept making her redo it, and I think I'm probably butchering this, but as far as I remember, it was something along the lines of she she like came in to read it again, and like there was like a lot of traffic and she was really tired and everything like that, and she was just kind of deflated, and she went in and she read it, and that's the one. Like that's the one that like, and you can hear it, like there's certain words that she says in it that are like so low that
Yeah.
like it's you can barely even hear it, but you get the emotion.
She is
Um,
just like emotionally exhausted.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it's I've always loved her read of that
Yeah.
of everything on that tape. And then god, it's so, not only is this just a beautiful moment in the movie, but as a Simpsons fan,
Mm-hmm.
when her revealing that she cuts over if she's taping over their wedding tape, but then for it to cut from her saying goodbye to their dance to with why do birds suddenly appear playing
Yeah,
over it,
close
which
to
we
you.
know is
Yeah.
their song, which is their we know is their song from the show, like the stat well
Mm-hmm.
established in the series. I get goosebumps when that happens. It's so that
Same.
I genuinely think that the videotape sequence is my favorite sequence in the movie. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's another one of those things where it's um, just watching that and watching like Marge hit all of those like highs and lows, and you see like the way. Man, props to whoever animated that. I would have to listen to that second commentary again and know who it was, but that sequence, the acting on Marge, everything about that is just is really great. And I think the Homer and Marge stuff, for what it's worth, I think the Homer and Marge stuff is really really strong in the film.
Me
Um,
too.
I think about it. uh ever so often about how. So I don't know if you know this, but originally Grandpa wasn't supposed to be the one to have the outburst in the film. It was going to be Marge. And the
Mm.
film was going to play the exact same way. That would have ruined the entire movie. Because Homer would have been a piece of shit. And
Yeah.
it would have made everything terrible. So I'm
Yeah,
glad
you're
they
not
flipped
wrong.
it. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And then they still made Marge kind of spearhead that whole like, what is the
Mm-hmm.
deal with Grandpa's like outburst thing? Um, but yeah, thinking more about it, I also like, I really like what they do with Bart. Like, obviously, what they do with Bart and Homer's relationship is really great in this movie as well.
Right.
Um, and that's a thing that they've kind of played with over the show before. But over the course of the show, Homer and Bart have some great moments, but Homer is kind of a shitty dad in a lot of
Yeah,
ways,
yeah,
and has been.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, the years of strangling is one thing to talk
Which
about.
that that really wild like PTSD ass moment they give Bart where like he drops Ned's fishing pole and he just starts to act like he's getting strangled.
Yes, yeah,
And then like
it really,
he's
and
like, wait, you're not strangling me, and Ned's like, huh?
yeah, he's just completely dumbfounded, and that's I think a really smart moment and way to like talk
Mm-hmm.
about that is just him being like, wait, what the hell?
This is
Like,
not
what?
normal.
Yeah. um I also like, I think Ned, like, it feels so in character for Ned to be oh, Bart needs some support and he's not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Ned is such a, Ned is at heart such a good guy. um
Right.
and I I really loved the way they built up that sort of surrogate father relationship. Um, one of my favorite reads from Flanders in the movie is at the very end when they go back to the dome and Bart walks into the church, and he goes, Bart, so good to see you, and so terrible that
Oh
you're
boy,
here.
you're
And
here.
like, and the way he delivers that is like so believable. He's just like, oh man, he's so genuinely happy to see Bart, but also like what that means is such a bummer for Bart.
Right,
And
yeah.
it hurts him, that he's there. Um, yeah, even though it ends with Bart kind of saying "fuck you" to Flanders and riding off with Homer.
Which plan is
It's
initiated though, which I think is a very good
true,
detail that they
true,
put in. That like Bart doesn't like Bart leaving Flanders isn't like Bart like saying like, oh, I don't need you anymore. It's more just like Ned's like, no, I think you should go with your dad.
right,
Um,
right.
which I appreciate. I do think that's really good.
Yeah, agreed. Um, yeah, and like it does feel like so many things about this movie came together so well.
Mm-hmm.
Homer and Marge's story and Homer and Bart's story really have like it's a great arc, and they finish really nice in the climax. But again, it kind of goes back to that, like, oh yeah, but what about Lisa? Lisa like kind of takes a back seat over in the grand scheme of things, even though she's a part of the story still. Um, I kind of wish they had found something more for her in this movie,
Right, I do too.
that related a little more closely to the family stuff.
Yeah.
The heart, which is where the heart is of the movie. Um, but that being said, it's hard to do. Like, I don't know how to do it.
very, very,
I
yeah,
I
very
can
hard to
sit here
do.
and say I wish they had done this, but I don't know how they would have done that. So
One small idea that I had was that I feel like the movie, but this kind of okay. This is something that we talked about a couple hours ago. Now we can talk about it here. Uh, the way Homer realizes that he has to go get his family. Um, the epiphany scene. You write a movie like this, you realize like, okay, this character has to have some kind of aha moment, some kind of epiphany to make him realize what's really important and to go get it. And in this movie, they do it quite literally. He literally goes to see a woman, and she literally says, you need an epiphany.
Right.
Which I think me and you both agree that it was kind of like an easy way out of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I am in agreement there. Like I do think it was important for obviously it was important for Homer to have the epiphany.
Right.
But the way they did it with the like with the like vision,
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. I think I agree that could have been a little more. It could have been a little less of a quick fix. You know, it was kind of just like he passes out, he has his vision, and even within the vision, it feels really simple. It's just like all of a sudden there's this turn. Like Homer's like his body's being
Right.
dismantled, and there's this turn where he just says, "I don't even care about myself anymore," or whatever, and I don't care about what happens to me anymore, or whatever. And that I always thought that turn felt unnatural and weird. You know, it was like all of a sudden like, well, why? Why do you feel that way,
Yeah, because
Homer?
he's kind of dicking around
Right.
for a good portion of that epiphany scene where like he says shit like more than two shakes and is considered playing with yourself. Like he's like fucking around for most of that. And then like he finally when they dismantle him, he's finally like, oh, I don't care about myself anymore. I think where me and you disagree is that I feel like I would have appreciated if they would have done something more grounded. If his realization was not so fantastical and
No, I agree. I do agree
not
with
as
you.
yeah, okay. I feel like when we talked about this earlier, it was kind of it
No,
was kind of a little different.
I think that you're right. I think it would have been more effective had Homer through an actual real life experience come to this realization. Oh, sorry. Here's a cameo from my dog.
Yeah.
She doesn't make it on very often. This is Ponyo, everyone. Only for you at home, you or for you listening on the podcast platforms, you can't see my dog popping into frame right now. But go watch on YouTube, and you can see my cute dog.
This is why we are a multi-platform show.
She's annoyed because I came home and immediately jumped to do the podcast, and she's like, "Wait, why aren't we going to hang out?" So it's okay. You can do a guest part. How do you feel about the Simpsons movie?
You feel like Lisa?
She's licking the microphone right now. She likes it.
She likes it.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I agree though. I think that a more grounded in reality epiphany, something that is more rooted in Homer's experience versus just this like phenomenon of an epiphany that he was like nearly a drug trip, you know?
Right.
And like, yeah, it's we've seen Homer go on a drug trip before in El Viaje Misterioso de Nuevo Homer, which side note, that's the name of the episode. It's El Viaje Misterioso de Nuevo Homer. So annoyingly, on Disney Plus, it is just called The Mysterious Journey of Homer. They translated the title. It's so annoying. It makes me so mad.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that sucks.
How stupid is that?
Yeah, it sucks. I didn't know they did that.
I hate it so much. Disney Plus, get your shit together.
How do they keep messing stuff up there? I don't like. Just put the episodes out. Like, right. They're all there. Man, whatever. But yeah, I feel like the movie could have benefited from Lisa and Homer having at least one conversation. Or like Lisa just kind of tells him about himself. That doesn't have to be his epiphany because, if it is, you can't have Marge, the kids go back to the dome and everything like that. So that doesn't have to be his epiphany moment. But
agreed.
I feel like it's a disservice to Lisa's character not to have her confront him about something she was so passionate about in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, you're right.
And you see it affect Bart more than you see it affect Lisa. Bart drinks. Bart drinks whiskey.
That's crazy. Yeah. They just have Bart get drunk in this movie. That's pretty wild. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And what's funny is they eventually did that on South Park, so that's another thing they could say Simpsons did it.
Oh man, look at that.
Man, but
But
sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I think uh even with that, I one of the other things I admire about the film, regardless of what it has going on, it is extremely tightly written, which is another thing that I learned from watching this movie and listening to the commentary. Jim Brooks says something on the commentary that I'll never forget, where he says, nobody says, "Hey, how you doing?" or "Pass the salt." Like everything in the movie is like essential and it's important and it doesn't waste your time. One detail that I love that nobody notices because it's done so seamlessly is that we never see Lisa tell Colin her name because we know Lisa's name.
Right.
We only find out Colin's name because we don't know who he is. And the scene ends when Colin asks Lisa's name. And it ends on a joke, so you just kind of don't really bat an eye. Where she like faints and everything like that. But the whole movie is written like that, where it's just kind of like every line of dialogue is crucial and everything that they do means something. Like whether it's for a gag or like whether it's for like character stuff, like everything is there for a purpose. And I love that. I really appreciate that. Just like listening to how they went through the process of like getting rid of stuff and adding stuff, changing stuff. Like I think Colin wasn't even always supposed to be in the movie. It was supposed to be a Lisa Milhouse thing, but they found out that audiences weren't really like didn't really know that Milhouse liked Lisa, so they didn't do that.
Huh.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird. The gag where which is what I love about the Simpsons is they could do stupid stuff like this and it could still just be funny and not make any sense. But like you know how like Moe's bar is right next to the church.
The church.
Come out
I thought
and
about
they run in. Yeah, I love that gag. Apparently, every time they did a test screening, that joke never got a laugh. Every single time.
What?
Yeah, and then they were doing like one of the last test screenings and like they said like they had their scripts out and they were ready to like all right they were prepared to write an X on it and then they just heard laughter and they were like oh okay all right I guess we'll leave it in. Like yeah it wasn't biting. They didn't like that one at all.
That's so funny. That's one of my favorite visual gags in the movie.
Yeah.
And even though my Simpsons brain is like the church isn't next to Moe's. I'm like that's not where it is.
Just like the Simpsons house isn't on the edge of Springfield. Like why are they just like this is the end of the dome?
They've done gags like that before though. Like I can't remember what episode, but it's one where Homer. Oh, it might be. I don't remember what episode it was, but there's one where they like Homer's like, I'm gonna walk all the way to Moe's, and they do like a montage of him like walking, and it looks like he's walked so far, and then he gets to Moe's, and they do an angle where it's just like, oh, the Simpsons house is just down the street from Moe's. it was like half a block.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, it's very stupid, but you know, like the Simpsons has always done that shit where it's just like we're gonna mold Springfield to fit our gags, and that's the more important thing is getting the laugh, not the literal locations of everything. So
right,
yeah. Let's see what else about this movie is there to talk about. How do you feel about Spider Pig? You a Spider Pig guy?
No, I'm not. I was actually that's one of my notes here. It says I wanted to ask you because maybe you could enlighten me on why. Was it just the randomness? Like, why did everybody act like Spider Pig was the funniest thing on the face of the earth? Like, there are so many things that are so good about this movie, but that was huge. It was ringtone and everything.
I remember when the movie came out, I loved Spider Pig. At least the song. I loved him singing Spider Pig, Spider Pig. I don't know. I can't explain. I mean, it might be because I was 17 years old. You know, like I was younger, and it was kind of like lol random. You know what I mean? Like Homer's bad at making up songs, and I don't know. It made me laugh at the time. I think while rewatching it now, there are moments between Homer and the pig that I think are very funny, but the Spider Pig song isn't that I don't love. I hate when he's like, no, he's Harry Plopper now. I actually actively dislike that joke.
It got a chuckle out of me this time.
It's so funny. The parts with the pig I love are like like them sitting on the couch.
I love that too. Okay, thank you. I was hoping somebody else liked that because I love that too.
It's so funny. Maybe we should kiss just to break the tension. It's
and then when Marge comes in, he just kind of is like,
I think that is so funny. I also love. I like the moment when he goes and dumps all the pig shit in the lake.
You're reading my mind. that was my next one. Okay.
When he gets in the back of the car and goes, drive. and the pig's like, no, pig can't drive. Yeah, there's a lot of really funny stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the joke. When he's like, I'm putting it, he reveals that he's putting all the shit in the silo. And Marge goes, it's leaking. Goes, it's not leaking. It's overflowing. That is
he filled
so
up
gross.
The whole silo in just 2 days. Well, I helped.
Oh yeah, it's so gross, but it's so funny.
You know, I guess they made them change it, but the original animatic says instead of pig crap, it says pig shit.
Oh, interesting.
On the silo, yeah, they might have made them change it. Yeah.
I'm curious about. I mean, I can't imagine like one written shit would have gotten them an R rating, right? Like,
no,
maybe. Why would they change? Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm.
Maybe they just decided that a written. Well, I guess you don't say shit, do they?
They don't. This is, to my knowledge, I remember The Simpsons getting bleeped once, and that was like in like a season in like the 20s. Homer says masturbate, and it got bleeped. I remember.
Oh, and that was like, so that's like a literal censorship thing,
right? But like
weird.
They've never said like, you know, like shit, anything like that would have got them like a.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is like I can't remember what episode it was but Homer's really mad about something and he's like, everyone has someone to leave the room and just goes.
I think
and then they just cut outside.
That might be Who Shot Mr. Burns.
Oh, you might be right.
I think that might be Who Shot Mr. Burns. But I love that joke. It's so funny.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting. I guess that makes sense. Like they did a few things in the movie that I feel like they couldn't have gotten away with on the show, but they didn't do anything. I feel like it would have felt out of place if the Simpsons were like saying shit or fuck. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Been kind of nuts. Even I do think there might be a novelty in it if Marge does it, because when Marge says somebody throw the goddamn bomb, it's so funny.
And that's one that they can't get away with on TV. You can't say you couldn't say, at least you couldn't goddamn on TV. You couldn't do. I also think that at least at the time, Otto ripping the bong, probably they couldn't have gotten away with that on TV at the time.
He does rip the bong.
Yeah, that it's so blatant. Like they had the lead episode before where like and it's like Homer gets high, and they have the one where, and like we know they reveal that Otto's a stoner, and like that's a hint, but I don't think they've ever shown anyone like smoking a bong is like, I don't think a thing that Fox would have allowed at the time. Maybe now in 2021 you could get away with it.
I think Homer and Wiggum hit the bong in Barthood. I think.
But that comes after this, huh?
It does come out, but you're right. I'm saying, like, for nowadays, I think they can get away with it because I think Homer.
Well, it's like recreationally legal so many places now. It's like it's not like a thing like it used to be.
But that's so weird though, because like I feel like we might have talked about this before, but that's so weird though, because like around this time, Family Guy did like a literal
Oh,
episode.
the weed episode.
Right.
We did
And
talk
they're
about that.
dancing on bongs. You know what I mean?
You're not
I feel like we might have talked about
wrong.
this because of Futurama.
Yes, we did. Because they lift up the bong in Futurama from under the seat. That's right. That's so funny. But I think it's the act of ripping the bong that to me is like they probably wouldn't have shown that on TV because
I don't think they do that in the Family Guy,
especially in like 2007 where like recreational weed wasn't legal anywhere and medical was barely legal anywhere. You know, it's weird. It's crazy. In the last 15 years, it's become like widespread.
They turned up.
Yeah. Rightfully so. Shout out to Tariq last week.
Hey man, just go watch it again.
Just go watch it again. Give us those sweet views.
Yeah, might see something you didn't notice.
Man, yeah, you know what they also did in that last sequence? They kill Dr. Nick, and I think they kept him dead for a very brief amount of time, but they eventually bring him back, right?
Yeah, was that you I was talking to about this? I was talking to somebody about this.
It's very possible because we talk about this stuff all the time.
Right.
That's why we started this podcast.
That is true. That is very true. I think it was you that brought this to my attention. Just the fact that so again, I saw this movie as a kid, which is all right. I want to bring this up too because it was tripping me out when you said 17. I was 9. When this came
I knew.
out.
I'm older than you. I'm a lot older than you.
I knew that. It's just the gap always kind of weirds me out.
I know.
But yeah, so when I saw this as a kid, it just didn't register me that Dr. Nick was dead. I just thought they were doing a quick bit
as a gag, right?
Yeah, and I just thought that was it. Like, whatever. Guy didn't really. But nah, it's so interesting that there's Simpson fans that are like, fam, they just killed Dr. Nick. I feel
right.
if this movie would have come out at my age right now, and I would have saw that, I probably would have felt the same way. I would have been like, what the fuck is Dr. Nick there? What happened to Dr. Nick?
Right.
I feel like I would have felt that way.
I think let's see. Let's see how long it took them. So the Simpsons movie came out in 2007. And so his last appearance before the Simpsons movie was in 1990. No, that can't be right. 1999? In season 10? No way. He had to have appeared between that and the Simpsons movie. Damn. That would be wild if he didn't. But he's allegedly revived in season 16. Oh, sorry, season 20. In season 20. So okay. a couple years after the movie. 2 years after the movie.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if there were any references to him being dead, but I remember hearing oh yeah, he was dead. Interesting. Very interesting. I bet there's some Real Jim's videos out there about it that we can watch
Real
too.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to the Real Jim's.
Have a Nick video actually.
Then that's probably got all the information we need.
So I'm gonna watch that again after. I'm gonna watch that again.
I can't wait.
This.
I can't wait till we cover The Simpsons so we can get Jim's on the pod.
Right. If our schedules weren't so disjointed, we probably could have called them today.
For this, I know.
Yeah.
I know. That would have been good.
Yeah.
But I also was like, I don't know. We're too busy. I'm too busy right now. I want to be real prepared. I want to be real prepared when Jim's comes on. Shout out to Jim's. Everyone, if you don't know the Real Jim's, he makes great Simpsons videos. You go check them out.
Some of my favorite videos on the entire internet.
There's some good Simpsons videos, man. Good Simpsons videos on YouTube. Shout out to Lydia and the Simpsons Theory. Great channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go check out that stuff. Man, love the Simpsons. I want to talk about the Simpsons more on my channel. I did a video. I did a couple videos.
Yeah.
My last one I think is pretty good.
The Lisa?
The Lisa one. I did one about a couple Lisa episodes. I think that's a good video. It didn't get very many views, but I'm proud of it. So, you know,
I love
it,
that, man.
I think that all works.
You know what I
Yeah.
appreciate about Lydia and Jim's is like, because before I mentioned like how mean Simpsons fans are. No, they're just two really wholesome Simpsons
They're
fans that
so
just love the
wholesome.
show, and instead of saying I hate this, they try to dissect it and go, so why did they do this?
Right.
And they don't write off everything that came later. I appreciate that. That's why I love
Right.
watching their stuff.
And I feel like that's the attitude I really like, especially when you're dissecting shows like this. And that's kind of the attitude I try to take, like when I cover things like Futurama. You know what I mean? Futurama is a show I adore. I think the last few seasons were like noticeably not as good as the original seasons, but I don't ever like make that the focus of my videos. I'm not going to make a video that's just like why the Futurama was ruined for the Comedy Central years. You know what I mean? I make videos, I look at everything in the context of the whole show, and I dissect individual aspects without like, you know, trying to tear any of it down. I just like, well, let's just talk about what the whole thing is because this show is great, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that anyone who takes that angle, especially with shows like this that are very divisive in the fan base, you know. I feel the same way about Star Wars. Shout out to Star Wars Explained for making and Hello Greedo. Star Wars channels that don't divide the fan base and specifically just talk about the series as a whole and everything in, you know, in their own context versus this movie is bad and this one is great and here's why this is ruining the franchise. I just hate that shit, man. I just hate that shit.
Yeah, I can't stand it either. Cause like, even I'm kind of the guy where like even like Simpsons episodes that are like considered the worst, like ones that people really don't like, there's still a gag in there maybe that'll make me chuckle. Like, people hate Lisa Goes Gaga. Like the one with Lady Gaga. They hate that
people
one.
Hate it.
They hate it so much. And I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I love it. You know what I mean? Like you know, that's not how I feel about it at all. But there's one moment in it that I quote sometimes. It's when Marge, I'm pretty sure it's that episode when Marge is like waving her tears away. She says, I hope that I always hope that I could be one of those girls that could wave her tears away and not cry, but I'm not," or something like that, which I really like. And there's a visual gag where like there's like some glitter, and then it just like lands on Mr. Burns' forehead, and he just fucking collapses because he's so weak. Like I like that. Like I think that's funny. And it's
you just describing that gag made me laugh. Yeah. That's great.
I think that's funny, and it's in an episode that people despise, but people are so zeroed in on what they hate about it that they don't kind of say like, well, what? There has to be something here. There has to be. Let's see if there's actually something. Let's not go in saying, "Oh my God, new Simpsons, and they got Lady Gaga. Oh, and she's herself, and she takes over the story. Oh boy, this is gonna drag." Like when you do that, you're inviting the hatred. You go in one. There's some people, fam. All right, the show that you loved, it's just not here anymore. It's fine. So either you adapt or you just kind of move on. Oh, I hit my light.
Wow, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was wild. Either you adapt or you move on, but just kind of going in, approaching it with the hate and wanting, and like it's like, oh man, I don't know why they keep doing this. So why do you keep watching it? You know,
right?
What I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
that is exactly how I feel. Look, if a franchise has moved into territory where it's not for you anymore, cool. Enjoy what you still love of the franchise,
right?
And let other people enjoy what they love about the new stuff. Like if they love it, it's just like there's fighting, and especially because like there's no way to like reclaim what something used to be. You know what I mean?
No.
Even like it's like The Simpsons can never be what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
People claim that Star Wars is like that the Mandalorian is like reclaiming what the franchise used to be, and that's not true at all. The Mandalorian is really cool, but it's like it's not even close to what the originals were. Like it's got a lot of like cool visuals and style that those did, but like you cannot tell me that the Mandalorian feels the same as the original trilogy. It doesn't. It feels very different, and that's okay. And if you like the Mandalorian, that's okay too. But
right.
It's like keep just if like what you like and dislike what you don't like, but don't place your demands on these creators. That it's not yours. It's not yours.
Right.
You know
I
think
like, that's a really important detail, is that like saying this is not saying that you don't have the right to be critical, right? It's not saying that you have to go in and love every Simpsons episode. Exactly. And it's not even saying that you don't have the right to vocalize, hey, I didn't like this one. But people are assholes, bro. Like people like get really, really, really weird with the media that they don't like.
Yes,
and
they do.
They approach it with this like really mean-spirited nature where they feel like they have all the answers. You guys should have did this and you should have did that. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this story thing? Without realizing that a lot of hands go into what put these things together, and there's some things that they probably wanted to do, but they probably couldn't. Some things that they just couldn't get up. Some things they didn't have time to. Maybe the script didn't have enough time to get another pass. There's so many factors that nobody thinks about. They just think about, well, you did this and it's bad, so I have to rip it to shreds.
And there's that's a really important point too, is like so many of these people pretend like they understand the process when in reality they don't. And like, I mean, I don't want to go on a tangent about Star Wars, but my God, are there not there are so many of the most toxic fans I've ever experienced in my life in that fandom who straight up create fan fictions about real people to try and explain these like their movies that they don't like. Like there are real people who are in charge of Star Wars, and the fans have like created these insane elaborate stories about infighting and civil wars at Lucasfilm that is like where like people are fighting over these properties and only these certain people know what they're doing and these other people don't know what they're doing and they're going to get kicked out of here soon. And it is true insanity, and it makes me so sad because I'm just like, just watch the stuff, and if you don't like it, you don't like it, and if you like it, you like it, and by all means express what you like and what you don't like.
Absolutely,
by all means. But if you are taking it to the degree where you're making videos about a studio executive constantly claiming that they are ruining stuff while not giving them any credit for the things that you do like, even though they're in charge of the whole thing, then you have a problem. You have a problem with your brain. You need to get the worms out of your brain. Man. And you know, like that's the case for a lot of franchises. Star Wars is just one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Star Wars, and the thing is, the longer the franchises exist, the more you're going to see that, because there's all these different iterations of the franchise, and you got all these people like, this is what it was. No, this is what it is. No, this is what it is. No, this is what it is. And guess what? It's all of those things. It's not all of those things at once. It's all of those things at different times and all at once. You know what I mean? It's like, but you're allowed to like what you like and dislike what you dislike, but you're wasting your energy when you're like making your personality based around changing a fictional universe.
Yeah, man.
It frustrates the hell out of me. It frustrates the hell out of me.
It gets me too, because I just every once in a while, like I'll just see someone unprovoked just like randomly just like slam what The Simpsons is doing now. And again, it's fine if you don't like it. But this cockamamie notion that like the show has done nothing of quality in 20 years is literally absurd. You are ignoring a vast amount of episodes. There isn't a single, I don't, fam, like, whatever your preferences, however you feel about XYZ, like, there isn't a single Simpsons episode with, a single Simpsons season with 100% bad episodes in it.
Agreed.
I think what we've gotten caught up in is that this is just me though, I don't think that new Simpsons is by all means bad television. I don't think it's bad television. I think for the standard that The Simpsons started as, the standard that it set, I think that's what led people to be like, oh, it sucks now.
Yeah.
But if a new show were to start and you just took one of the scripts and put it in the new show, it would just be like, oh yeah, this new show is kind of cool. It was all right. That's pretty good. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
I think that's what it is.
You know, and like it's been, I mean, that's the thing for me for a long time. Like, I've come to terms with the fact that like, oh, you know what? The Simpsons is never going to be what it was when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And The Simpsons, like, I have 8+ seasons of Simpsons that I love. Like, I love. And I love to watch them. And you know what? Like, I'm going to continue to watch new episodes, and I'm going to be entertained when I'm entertained, and sometimes I won't be, and I'm not going to whine about it, because the reality is there's already so much good Simpsons out there. And like, I don't understand why. I don't understand the point in wasting the energy whining about something you're not watching, you know?
Right. Yeah, man. Yeah. Like, that's another part about it where it's like, I had to stop watching that shit 5 years ago because it's so bad. How do you know it's bad if you haven't watched it in 5 years?
Right.
Because honestly, the last season had an episode that I still think about because I adore it so much.
Which one?
It's called Uncut Films with Wiggum's wife.
Is that 30?
Love that
that's
episode.
In season 32.
Mm-hmm. I
think I'm close to that one, but I haven't watched it yet. I watched the first 6 or 7 or something of the season.
Yeah, I think that episode is great.
That one out.
Yeah, I love that one.
There's almost every season one that like I'll usually go through and watch the new seasons on Hulu, and I'll just kind of cruise through them as they come out. But or I'll like go on a little Simpsons binge and be like, all right, I'm gonna watch the new season. And there's always ones where I'm like, this is good. Like, this is a good episode. All right. I'm enjoying this. Yeah. And there's also always ones where I'm just like, this one didn't do it for me, you know? But, and you know, at the end of the day, if you don't like it, don't watch it. That's all there is to it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Do you have any other thoughts on this movie? Like, this movie is great. It's a great movie.
Man.
There's a lot of fun stuff in it.
We
went on a lot of tangents.
We didn't talk about Albert Brooks, who was the Simpsons one of, if not the first Simpsons guest voice.
Yeah,
in the first season.
Who was his first guest character?
I think he's that. So he might not have been the first one, but I think he's that guy from Call of the Simpsons, that guy with the cowboy hat.
He is Cowboy Bob. You're right. The RV salesman. Yeah. You're right. That's funny. Oh, he also, I didn't know this.
You didn't know? Wait, I think I know what you're about to say.
He's Jacques in Life in the Fast Lane. He's the
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were going to say that he was what's Buddy's name? Man, it's one of the best episodes of the show. You only
Hank Scorpio.
Twice. Scorpio, yeah.
I knew he's Hank Scorpio, and that brings me to the one thing I wanted to bring up, and I was also wanted to ask you this question on if they talked about it in the commentary or not. Apparently, originally when they were conceiving of the movie, Russ Cargill, played by Albert Brooks, they were intending on making the villain of the movie Hank Scorpio.
Right.
And then they decided to develop this character, Russ Cargill. But I remember so specifically watching this movie thinking, why isn't this character Hank Scorpio the whole time?
Right,
and I know Hank Scorpio is like the supervillain in that episode, but to me, the idea of Hank Scorpio being a supervillain taking over the entire East Coast in that episode, and then going on to just get a cabinet position in the government, like that is so fitting. That would have been such a fitting development for that character, and I think it would have been really funny. Like Hank Scorpio feels like exactly the kind of guy who would run the EPA for his own misdeeds. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And so there was two things that I was wondering about. I was like, I wish Russ Cargill was Hank Scorpio, and B, I wish that instead of President Schwarzenegger, they just made it Rainier Wolfcastle.
Yes, but so I think the Scorpio thing and the McBain thing, I think are two things that come with when you're bringing a show to theaters and you want to cater to fans, but you kind of can't because there's a bunch of people who are going to be like, who's McBain? Why does he sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger? So they just kind of just like, all right, fuck it, Schwarzenegger, which,
I can buy that. Yeah. I can for sure buy that for Schwarzenegger. But I think with Russ Cargill, it's like, well, no one knows Russ. Like, Russ Cargill's not a person. Like, just if you're making a character anyways, then why you can do Hank Scorpio and make it be a nod for fans while also establishing like who he is now in the show or in the movie. You know what I mean?
I do agree, but the end of the movie they have that face off, so Homer would recognize Scorpio.
Okay.
The audience
would have to change it a little bit.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. There's always
that's actually, I guess, the best argument. That's actually the best argument that I think you can make is that Hank Scorpio fucking loved Homer Simpson.
yeah, there's no malice whatsoever. Yeah. That's true.
That he loved him. I watched that episode pretty recently. That is an all-timer. It's fucking good.
See, that's another one where like it's kind of like this movie, right? Where like everybody kind of has their thing that they're doing. And I love the thing that they give Marge, where just the house is too clean, so she takes one sip of wine, and they just play that stinger, that dun, music dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, it's so funny. I love that episode. As a kid, one of my favorites. Still one of my favorites. So funny. I love how oblivious Homer is to what Hank Scorpio is and what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
I love that, like, I love Homer getting hired in the first place, and like his them showing him like be a supervisor. He's just like, you guys working hard right now? Could you work a little harder? Like that's him. And then one of my favorite scenes in the whole show is Homer going to ask Hank Scorpio where he can get his team hammocks, business hammocks. And he's listing all the different places. He's like, that's down on third. That's down on third as well. That one's on third. In fact, they're all on third. It's the hammock district. It's so
that's one of those.
funny.
That's one of those runs where, like, because they used to do stuff like this a lot. I don't think they do it anymore. But you can tell Dan Castellaneta and Albert Brooks were in the booth together, because like the way they're going back and forth, and like Brooks was 1000% like ad-libbing a bunch of that.
For sure.
They used to do that a lot in the early years. One of my favorites is when Chalmers comes to visit the school, and they bring up like some battle, and Ralph says, "What's a battle?" And then like Skinner just kind of tussles his hair and walks off, and he's like, "Did he just say what's a battle?"
Yeah.
He said, "Nah." He said, "What's that rattle?" It's about the heating duct. He said, "Nah, it sounded like battle." Well, I'm sorry, I have a cold, so you hear ours is bees? Yeah, I understand.
I understand. It's so good. Did that student just say, "What's a battle?" It's so funny. God. Man, what a good show The Simpsons is.
Yeah.
God, I and it's just like, I know this happens every time we go on a Simpsons tangent, but it makes me want to talk about The Simpsons on this podcast.
We're doing it now. Everything we've done is on topic, and I feel like we're doing
I know.
a bang up
We've
job.
gone on some tangents, but but talking about like the Simpsons history and everything, I'm just like, I want to cover every season of this show, or at least a chunk of them. I want to start. So we got to figure out when we're going to do that. Comment below. When do you want us to cover the Simpsons? How eager are you to see that? What do you, we just want to know. We want to gauge your interest. There's a lot of things we want to talk about.
Because I know that it's going to be easy. Because I have all of these notes written, and I think I've read 5 of them.
Right.
Because it is so easy to talk about how good The Simpsons is. And it's so really easy to get really engaging conversations out of it.
There's so many. Exactly. And obviously you and I are such big fans of the show, and we have such like wildly encyclopedic knowledge of the show that like it's just so easy to just like, oh, let's talk about this, oh, let's talk about this, oh, let's talk about this.
Right.
And it just flows so clearly. I want to talk about The Simpsons, but we got to finish Archer. We got to finish Archer
for a good reason.
Yeah, it should be good. We've got a lot more Archer to watch. So
yeah.
Do you have more to talk about? Do you have anything else to say about this movie? Should we start to kind of wind it down?
I feel like there's definitely a lot more that I could say. I could list some things off really quickly so we could get out of here, because we're over, by this point we're over the runtime of the film, which I think is hilarious.
Hell yeah.
But I think Marge, when the house is on, first of all, seeing the Simpsons house get destroyed is really surreal.
Yeah.
That, and when the house is on fire, and I think Marge running back in, getting the wedding video, and then seeing a dish and scrubbing the dish is the most Marge thing she does in the entire film.
I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, that's a good bit.
What else I got in here?
Trying to think. We didn't talk about the naked skateboarding sequence. Even you and I talked about it earlier today in detail, right. but we didn't talk about it on the pod. I'm just gonna go on record. I think it's so fucking funny.
It is.
It's so funny.
I think my favorite is Agnes. Don't look where I'm pointing, and it's just
it's perfect. It's so funny. Like, I think in terms of visual gags, it's so fucking genius, because they do such an incredible job animating over Bart's wiener perfectly, which is why I think that the reveal of like them just showing it for that little section is so funny. It's so funny and unexpected, just because they're just like going to such great lengths to animate all these things. One of the best animated sequences in the movie. I think it's really cool.
So one thing about that scene, I remember when I went to go see the movie in theaters. I went to go see it with my mom's, and I remember when like that scene came and that part came up. I remember her audibly saying, "What kind of cartoon is this?" my chest was pounding for the entire duration of the movie and the entire way home. I just kept thinking, I am never going to be allowed to see The Simpsons ever again. This is my final bit of Simpsons media. This is it. There is no more after this point. But nah, it was cool.
That's funny. My mom was not a fan of me being a Simpsons fan growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I to this day think it's just because she doesn't understand it. Like, I bet I could curate a little list of episodes and sit down with my mom and be like, "Hey, let's watch these," and I think she would enjoy them. I think she was very much part of the like, wow, this stuff is so stupid. You know what I mean? Like, which is very much the attitude of a lot of people. We talked about last week about about Barbara Bush saying
Right,
saying how stupid the Simpsons were or whatever. But like the reality is that the Simpsons is such a good and wholesome show,
and really
and
heartwarming, and
and I think I owe a lot of the person I became to the Simpsons, um, and
mm-hmm.
and I'm
Likewise.
grateful for it. I think it's a really good, important show, and I think you can learn a lot of important life lessons from the show.
I
And
didn't I didn't realize how lucky I was to be a kid that grew up with a mom that was like a passive Simpsons fan, because it's not like we like watched it together or anything like that, but like she was totally cool with taking me to see the movie the day it came out.
nice.
She was totally cool with us waiting in that long line when the 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 ride came out.
Nice.
I went that summer. I think it was that summer, the summer the ride came out. He was totally cool with that. Like, I think like a couple months ago I saw her with a Simpsons shirt on. I don't even think I have a Simpsons shirt. Like, it was.
I don't.
Oh wait, no, I'm
that's
lying.
so funny.
I have 3 that I completely forgot about until now. And I have Simpsons Vans. Did you see that they released Simpsons Vans sneakers?
Yeah, I've been looking at them and considering buying them for like a few months now. I've been looking at those.
I got the Tracy Ullman's, the ones with the Tracy Ullman design. Yeah, I got those.
Those are the ones the ones that have the modern Simpsons on one shoe and Tracy Ullman's on the other shoe.
Right.
I really want those. Those are ones that I'm like looking at very closely.
They're pretty rad. I wanted the Mr. Plows, man, but
dude, the Mr. Plows.
It was so dope. Those are so dope. I love them.
Have you seen these Alberto ones? I've never seen these.
Huh. Oh, yeah. I have.
They're pretty cool.
I have, yeah.
They're a little more vanny than I want to.
Right.
I don't love Vans in general. Is my thing.
I had a Vans phase where like.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yep. Same. I had a Converse phase. I had a Vans phase. Wow. I'll buy some.
Oh, we had same phases.
I'm wearing Jordans right now.
I'm in my Jordan phase. Oh, man, I just started buying Jordans. This is really funny. We gotta have some sneaker talk, man. I didn't know. I know.
Here's the thing: is like for years I've been ignoring the like side of my brain that's like I should buy sneakers because I'm afraid I'm gonna buy too many sneakers, and I'm afraid that the dam is breaking and that soon I'll be buying a lot of sneakers.
It broke for me, especially since I have a brother who's like into like sneakers and like matching them with clothes and fitted hats and stuff like that. So like he enables me and like sends me sneakers.
Totally.
And I'm like, I'm about to cop this. I'm about to get that. Like, and yeah, then I go broke.
Exactly. That's the problem. We just got to make more videos, make more money so we can fund our problematic sneaker addictions.
Right. That's what it's all about. As this podcast is just a cheap ploy to buy more J's.
Yeah, share this pod with your friends so that we can buy Simpsons Vans and not feel bad about it.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh man. Damn. All right. Well, what else is there to say? You know what we have to do and we should have talked about before this very moment is what are we going to talk about next week?
There's been a lot of rumblings between me and you.
We floated a couple things.
Yeah, a lot of rumblings of Beavis. Remember we kept talking about that.
We could do it. We could do America.
We could do America.
We could do
you know
America.
what would be interesting? Since this is like one of the first ones that we're doing in real time, you think we could ask?
Let's ask. Let's do it. You know what? But should we give them options or should we just say what movie do you want us to cover? Like, it's got to be a cartoon that curses and a movie.
Right.
And we're going to need people to let us know by like at least Wednesday.
Yeah, please. But yeah, we've been heavily considering Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Beavis and Butthead Do America. I guess the other things we could throw out there are, let's say, maybe Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story is a possibility.
I'm glad you said it, because if it came from me, it would have been, you know what I mean? But you said it. So yeah, that's a possibility.
We also had a recommendation of the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy, which obviously we've talked a bit about Star Wars today. That's interesting because Tariq's not a Star Wars guy. So I think we could have some really interesting discussions about that, which I think is a thing, regardless of if we do it next week, we should do soon. I have all of those on Blu-ray. That's the only Family Guy. Well, I guess I still have some of my, I probably have a few discs of the original few seasons of Family Guy that I had on DVD. But that's the only Family Guy Blu-ray I have, is this trilogy of Blue Harvest. What other ones are there? We don't really have many other options, do we?
Mikey wants us to do Team America.
That's true. It's not animated. It's not a cartoon, but it's like close enough.
It is close enough.
That is a movie I laugh at a lot. Man, I'm sure there's a lot that does not hold up in that movie, but I'm sure there's also a lot that like holds up better than ever. like I'm sure there's a lot of commentary in that episode or in that movie that like is like, oh yeah, this is spot on. And I'm sure there's a lot of there's a lot of choices they made comedically that's like, oh no. Oh man. I don't know. I can't think of any others. I can't think of any others that would fit. You know what? We have a doc somewhere. CTC Master Document.
We do have a doc. I forgot
Master
about that
Document. Doc. You put a bunch of movies in. Let's look what we got here. Films. We have Simpsons Movie, Beavis and Butthead, Stewie Griffin. And then you put a bunch of Bakshi stuff in here.
I did do that.
Sausage Party. We put in Sausage Party.
That might have been one of the first things we talked about.
Really?
I feel like I remember that, like, so this podcast started in one night. It's because you called me one night and we just had like a really big conversation. Oh, we could do this, we could do that. And I feel like Sausage Party was one of the first things we talked about. I feel like that
you
was
might be right. We talked. I know we were talking about when we did that. We jumped on that call. We were talking about collabing on a video, and it evolved into this.
Is that really what happened?
It was kind of both. Like I went into the convo being like, well, we should talk about this Futurama retrospective we maybe want to do, and then that evolved into me being like, but what if we did a podcast where we talked about all of these shows? And here we are. Let's see. Let me say all the movies that are on here: Bebe's Kids, Anomalisa, Fritz the Cat, Hey Good Looking, Chico and Rita, Coonskin, Sausage Party, South Park. Well, we covered South Park already. Those are the ones that you put on here. And then I feel like the two that we should really think about are Beavis and Butthead and Stewie Griffin, because they kind of fit these. It fits this little mini series. You know what I mean?
Right. That's kind of where my brain.
I think if we're gonna do like Bakshi stuff, we should do
them together.
Do them together, exactly. Anomalisa is an anomaly. Funny enough. Where do we cover Anomalisa?
I think I wrote that because I really want to see Anomalisa because I've never seen it before.
You know what? This is so stupid to admit. I've never seen it either, but I bought it. I remember specifically I went and bought the Blu-ray of that and Rick and Morty season 2 or 3 on the same day, both Starburns Industries animated, and I fully intended on watching Anomalisa and I never have. So I've got the Blu-ray. I'm ready to watch it. So let's throw that in there someday. We got to put that in there.
Yeah, but I think okay, so we can let the audience pick, I guess.
Let's say audience, yes. Do you want us to do America, or do you want us to tell the untold story of Stewie Griffin?
Right. Choose wisely. The commentary will definitely vary.
I think I haven't seen Beavis and Butthead in so long. I'm kind of excited to watch that movie again.
I've actually never seen that movie.
You never seen it? Oh,
Mm-mm.
that would be a fun one if we do it. Stewie Griffin, I've seen a bunch of times, but when I was much younger, so it's been years. Um,
I saw it recently, and it
is that
does
kind of
have
just a road
some.
to? Is it kind of just a road to movie?
No, because again, this is something that we'll talk about when we if they pick it, but Brian and Stewie go to San Francisco to go find who Stewie thinks is his dad,
Right,
right?
right.
And then they run into like I think it's like a hotel or something, chasing after him, and Stewie and Brian split. And then you don't see Brian for
You don't
40
see
minutes.
Brian.
He
You told
just
me that.
disappears. It is
You
the
told me
weirdest
that.
story issue I've ever seen in my
That's
life.
right. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Well, if we do Beavis and Butthead, we could just make it Johnny and Tariq Do America is the title. It's pretty good.
It is. That's
Or
pretty
Johnny and
good.
Tariq Do Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Both of those rule.
All right. Well, I think we're going to leave it up to you, audience. You know what we'll do is we'll put up a poll on Twitter and
Cool.
maybe also on our YouTube community posts.
Right.
We'll put those two options up. Y'all can vote. We'll tally them up, figure it out. Also comment below. Tariq, you got anything else to say about the Simpsons movie before we sign off and call it a night?
Oh man. There's so much. I think I'll end it off with just the shot where Homer and Marge kiss. I think that's probably my favorite shot in the movie. That shot gives me goosebumps every time. Just that 360 camera thing it's gorgeous. It's probably the best animated those characters has ever been. And I think the movie's gorgeous. I think it's really pretty, and I think it's really funny, and I think his heart is in the right place. And it's a movie based on the most popular animated show of all time. There's no way that it's gonna please everybody.
Right.
But I think like for what they did and like what they had to work with, I think they did a pretty good job.
I think it's a solid movie. I really enjoy it. You know, it's I would say it's not my favorite piece of Simpsons media, but
Right.
It is one that I truly love in a lot of different ways. And you know, I certainly think a movie could have turned out a lot worse. It's got so much to love. It's got so much to like, and there's so much heart there. And I think that's kind of the thing that is most important to me is that this movie came and went, and at the end of the day, it was about the heart of the Simpsons family, and that's why I love it. And I hope they do more. I want another Simpsons movie. Let me throw this out before we leave. What if because he talked about wanting to maybe work on with them again, but he was busy making another movie. What if they made a sequel and it was directed by Brad Bird?
That'd be rad.
Wouldn't that be rad?
That would be rad. If you were ever to pick someone else that's not David Silverman, it would probably be Brad Bird. Yeah.
He allegedly was like interested in helping on the movie, but was in the middle of Ratatouille, which is like, that was a huge project for him to work on because he was salvaging someone else's project. I don't know if you knew that about Ratatouille. Ratatouille was someone else's movie, and it wasn't going well, and Brad Bird came up and completely changed the whole thing. You can actually kind of tell, as good as Ratatouille is, you can kind of tell based on its structure and how many different narrative devices it has. That's like, oh, this is a little bit of a Frankenstein movie. Okay. Like they cobbled a lot of stuff together in possibly the most effective manner possible. Like they really nailed it. Man, Brad Bird, good director.
Two Brad Bird Pixars came out in the duration of them putting this movie together, because The Incredibles is 2004.
You're right. They were making. That's right. And that was a movie that's a movie that he had wanted to make for years.
So yeah, his hands full pretty much. Wasn't no way he could do it now, but do it.
Yeah,
then,
man. Hey, if you aren't familiar with Brad Bird's impact on The Simpsons, he was a big part of the directing team. And go watch Do the Bartman. Go watch that music video.
Do you know the story of like how they had to put that together?
I don't know it. I don't know it well enough that I know the whole story, but I know I've heard and read the story before.
I just know they did it in 2 weeks with like a bunch of like foreign animators that were only familiar with the Tracy Ullman shorts and didn't know that The Simpsons went the series.
Right.
Man,
that's so funny.
Man, just let's, because there's on a season 2 DVD. Getting something in your eye on a visual podcast is really funny. On a season 2 DVD, there's a commentary on the Do the Bartman music video.
Oh, no way. I have that DVD. I'm missing one disc. I hope it's not the disc that's on.
I hope not. But there's but there's that in that commentary, that's what they tell that story of just like having to do it so fast and like having to teach people how to draw these characters that like didn't even know that I went the show. And then there was like a language barrier, and like it was a lot going on to put it together.
Wow. Well, it turned out great.
Bartman is gorgeous. Yeah, I think it's gorgeous. I think it looks really good. And
me too.
He also did Black Widower, which is a brilliant episode.
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah. Brad Bird did a lot of dope stuff on The Simpsons.
Yeah, he's a great director. That's the thing. I got to go to, this is the last thing I'll say, and we should probably sign off. I got to go see a pre-screening of The Incredibles 2 with a panel with Brad Bird afterwards. And hearing him talk about making movies was really awesome. And he's just a really good director. And I'm sure he's got plenty of stuff in the works. But I want to see more from him. And if anyone who's got any pull over at Disney's here, consider him for the Simpsons movie too. Just consider him. He's great. He's real good. Yeah. And with that, we should probably call it. This episode's a little longer than I even expected.
Yeah, I told you I wouldn't be able to shut up.
I know, you're right. Yeah. You're right. We both went on tangents. But with that, I want to say thank you to Mikey Yunez for producing and editing our podcast. I want to say thank you to Kerrifique for our beautiful artwork. I want to say thank you to Jakeneutron for our wonderful theme song that gets stuck in my head regularly. I want to say thank you to my friend Tariq. Tariq, thank you.
And
thanks for talking about cartoons every week with me, except for the weeks that we can't do it because we're busy.
Yeah, those weeks don't count. But the weeks that we do it, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. Thank you to the audience for listening every time that we talk about stuff. And tune in next week for you get to decide.
Yeah.
We'll find out. And with that, thank you very much. I love you. Goodbye.
Yeah.